I was standing in the living room of the house I'd helped save 3 times. Once when my dad had back surgery and couldn't work for months. Once during COVID when both my parents lost half their retirement in the market. And once last spring when the furnace went out just before a cold snap, and I wired the contractor the full amount before they even called to ask. That day, I wasn't there to fix anything. Just helping Dad scan some paperwork for their health insurance. It was something I did often. My dad, Gerald, never quite figured out the printer-scanner combo even after 10 years. He always said I was good with tech, though I've worked in project management, not IT, for over a decade. He'd left a stack of documents on the dining table. I moved through them quickly, medical records, some Medicare forms, a utility bill or two. Then I saw it. A cream-colored folder, thick, neatly labeled in my mom's handwriting, estate plan final copy. I shouldn't have opened it. I know that. But I had just paid their property tax bill the week before, $178.41, and I was planning to swing by the pharmacy after this to pick up their blood pressure refills like I always did. So yes, I opened it. Inside, their will. Notarized 2 months ago. Their house fully paid off. Their remaining retirement accounts. A life insurance policy. All of it to my brother Mason Rivers. 29. No job. Still living at home. He dropped out of college twice, spent a few years working on music, which mostly meant jamming in the garage and posting clips that never broke 200 views. My parents always said he just hadn't found his path yet. My name, Danielle Rivers, appeared once. One line. We love both of our children equally and trust them to care for one another. That was it. No mention of the taxes I'd paid. No line about the savings I'd transferred without being asked. Not even a thank you. Just a polite way of saying, you don't need anything. And we don't owe you anything. Mason went completely silent. Silence became our family's new language, not out of peace but exhaustion. I still saw the messages sometimes. Small attempts. Oh, we just wanted to talk. Thinking of you. But never a real question. Never a how are you? Never a can we listen to you now? Then they stopped. Spring turned into summer. The lawn of the house that was once ours grew wild and forgotten. Someone in the neighborhood posted a photo in the local group. Does anyone know if the Rivers are okay? The yard looks abandoned. No one replied. I just stared at the photo for a while. That porch where I fixed the railing. The tree with Mason's initials. The swing that now creaked alone in the wind. And I let it pass. Sometimes loss isn't a tragedy. It's a release. I learned that being the strong daughter didn't mean carrying everything in silence. That love isn't measured by how much you endure, but also by how much you allow yourself to stop being the pillar. And that help is only generous when it's offered freely, not when it's expected like a debt. In the fall, I received a letter. Handwritten. From my mother. No requests. No demands. Just 2 pages filled with broken words, regrets spoken far too late. We thought we were protecting you. But really, we were hiding our weakness behind your strength. The end, just one line. If one day you wish to come back, not out of duty but from your heart, the door will be open. I tucked the letter into a drawer. Not because I planned to use it, but because for the first time they saw me. Maybe too late. But they saw me. And sometimes that's a beginning. Even if the rest of the story never goes back to what it used to be. As the conversation between Gabriella and her adoptive mother echoed through the mansion's marble hallways, a silence fell over the rest of the guests. The festive chatter had stopped. Wine glasses were paused mid-air, forks frozen halfway to mouths. It was as if time itself had slowed down, every heart in that house tuned to the frequency of a truth long buried but now violently unearthed. Gabriella stood trembling, but not with fear. With release. With the fierce, trembling freedom that only comes after years of carrying invisible chains. She looked around the room, at the uncles who had ignored her, the aunts who had whispered behind her back, the cousins who had never called. Their eyes avoided hers now, ashamed, exposed. "I begged for your love," she continued, voice breaking but determined. "I did everything I could to be seen by you. I brought home good grades, smiled when I was hurting, made myself small so no one would feel uncomfortable around me. But none of it was ever enough. Not for you." Her mother looked as though she'd been slapped, the rigid mask she wore now cracking with each word Gabriella spoke. Till, she said nothing. Just stood there, breathing heavily, arms crossed, a fortress trying to remain intact. But Gabriella didn't stop. "I wasn't your daughter by blood. And that was the crime I could never pay for, wasn't it?" Somewhere behind her, a fork clattered to the floor. The silence deepened. Then, from the back of the room, a voice rose. It was Gabriella's grandfather, her adoptive mother's father. An old man, frail now, sitting in a wheelchair by the fireplace. His eyes, watery with age and memories, locked onto Gabriella's. "I told her to adopt you," he said quietly, voice trembling. "I told her after she lost her second baby. I said that love could come from the soul, not just the womb." Everyone turned toward him. She agreed at first. "But when her third pregnancy gave her a son, things changed," he went on. "She started seeing you as a mistake, as an obligation." Tears welled up in Gabriella's eyes. She had suspected, but hearing it aloud, confirmed, declared, it shattered something in her and healed something else at the same time. The old man looked at his daughter now. "You broke that girl's heart, Teresa. And for what? For pride? For bloodline?" Teresa opened her mouth as if to speak, but no sound came out. Gabriella stepped forward. "I don't want your apology," she said, her voice quieter now, steadier. "I just want you to know I'm done begging. I'm not here to be accepted anymore. I came to show you that I survived you. That despite everything, I became someone." She pulled something from her coat pocket, a small framed photo of her with a group of children. Smiling, joyful, free. "I opened a shelter for children like me. Kids who feel like they don't belong anywhere. And there they belong." She placed the photo gently on the edge of the grand piano and turned to leave. But just as she reached the door, a small hand grabbed hers. It was her younger half-brother, the biological son. He looked up at her with wide, tear-filled eyes. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I didn't know they treated you like that. You were always kind to me." Gabriella knelt down and hugged him tightly, all the walls around her melting in that moment of pure, untainted love. "It's okay. Now you do." And with that, she stepped out into the cold winter night, the snow falling gently around her like tiny blessings from the sky. She had come seeking closure. What she found was liberation. Crisp night air stung her cheeks as Gabriella walked away from the house that had once been her prison. Snowflakes drifted softly onto her coat, catching in her hair like tiny stars. Each step she took felt like a shedding of weight, the weight of unspoken pain, the heavy silence of rejection, the ache of trying to belong to a place that never truly claimed her. She didn't look back. The car that brought her was still waiting at the curb. The driver, a gentle old man named Silvio, rolled down the window and gave her a warm smile. "Everything all right, señorita?" Gabriella paused for a moment, then nodded. "Better than it's ever been." He opened the door for her, and as she slipped inside, she finally allowed herself to breathe, a deep, shaking breath that reached into every part of her being. She leaned her head against the window, watching the house disappear behind them, the lights flickering through the trees like distant ghosts. But there was no sadness in her heart anymore. Only peace. Only fire. A week passed. Back in the city, Gabriella returned to the heart of her purpose, the shelter. It was small, nothing luxurious, but it pulsed with life. Laughter echoed down the hallways. Tiny feet pattered across the floors. Children's drawings were taped on every wall, vibrant splashes of hope and imagination. Her office overlooked the modest courtyard where 3 boys were building a snowman, laughing so hard they kept falling over in the snow. Gabriella smiled, resting her hand on the window pane. This was her family now. Built not from blood but from love. Real love, unconditional, unfiltered, unstoppable. She walked down the hall and past a room where a young girl named Lucia was sitting alone, legs swinging off the edge of her bunk, clutching a worn stuffed animal. Gabriella sat beside her gently. "What's on your mind?" Lucia didn't answer at first. She just looked at Gabriella with that same haunted look Gabriella once saw in her own eyes when she was a child. "Do you think someone can love a kid who's been left behind?" Lucia whispered. Gabriella reached over and gently tucked a strand of hair behind Lucia's ear. "Absolutely. You know how I know?" "How?" "Because I was left behind too. And now I get to love you." Lucia stared at her, then threw her arms around Gabriella's neck and buried her face in her shoulder. Gabriella held her tightly, her eyes brimming with tears, not from sadness but from the sheer power of healing. Each child that came through those doors brought with them a storm. And Gabriella had become the calm after. She taught them how to hold a pencil, how to tie their shoes, how to speak their truth, but above all, she taught them how to feel worthy. Even when the world told them otherwise. One evening, after the kids had all gone to bed, Gabriella sat alone in the quiet dining room, the soft hum of the heater filling the silence. A knock came at the front door. She hesitated, glancing at the clock. It was nearly 10 p.m. When she opened it, her breath caught in her throat. It was her half-brother, the boy who had held her hand that night. But he wasn't a boy anymore. Now 17, taller, more grown-up than she remembered, he stood shivering in the cold, clutching a backpack. "I left home," he said, his voice cracking. "I couldn't stay there. Not after what I heard. Not after seeing how they treated you." Gabriella blinked back tears. "Come in." He stepped inside slowly, glancing around the shelter with wide eyes. "Is it true? You built this?" "I did," she said, nodding. "With the help of good people. For kids like me and like you if you need it." He hesitated. "Do you think I could stay? Just for a little while? I want to understand you. I want to learn what they never taught me." Gabriella swallowed the lump in her throat. She opened her arms, and without another word, he stepped into her embrace. In that moment, she understood something profound. Healing doesn't always come from justice. Sometimes it comes from the unexpected, from the courage of one heart choosing to change, to cross a line no one else dared to. Family, she realized, isn't where you come from. It's who shows up when it matters most. The days turned into weeks, and the shelter thrived more than ever. Word began to spread. First through the neighborhood, then through the city. A local journalist came to visit after hearing about Gabriella's story. The girl who had once been thrown away, now raising an army of children with nothing but patience, love, and courage. Her story went viral. Soon she was invited to speak at schools, forums, and social events. Not because she was famous, but because she was real. And in a world craving authenticity, her truth hit harder than any headline. On stage, she didn't hide the pain. She spoke of rejection, of cold Decembers spent watching families gather through frosted windows. She spoke of that night at the mansion, the confrontation, the silence, the walk away. But she also spoke of Lucia's hug, of her half-brother showing up with nothing but a backpack and regret, of building something sacred from the ashes. And every time she finished speaking, people rose to their feet, not in applause but in reverence. One evening, after a televised interview, Gabriella stood on the rooftop of the shelter, watching the city lights flicker like constellations. Beside her stood her brother, now working part-time at the shelter, studying social work at night. "You changed so many lives," he said softly. Gabriella smiled without looking at him. "No, they changed mine. I just listened." Downstairs, the kids were gathered around the old radio, dancing to music, laughter bubbling through the walls. And just like that, everything she had ever longed for, dreamed of, wept over, wasn't missing anymore. She had it all. Not in a picture frame, but in living color. A family. Purpose. A legacy. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you never miss a story, and comment an emoji if you watched until the end. And please, share this story with someone who needs to remember, your past does not define your worth. 'Cause sometimes the most broken hearts are the ones that shine the brightest.